Hello, lovely. Welcome to Tea with Tui, the podcast where I spill the tea on all things mystical and spiritual. Whether you are a ghost story enthusiast looking for a good vibe or simply curious about your spiritual journey, this is the podcast for you. My name is Tui Takiri. I am your host and guide, and we, my love, are going on a wild adventure together. This is going to be a really interesting episode. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to get out there, but it is really hard for me to find the English words to use to describe what it is that I went through. I am channeling my inner child today, and I really want to share the story about my hauntings with you. But in order for me to share about my hauntings, I kind of got to give you a little bit of a backstory as to why I chose to make the decisions that I did. Now, it's kind of taken me a little bit to get this episode out, and I don't know if it's because I feel ashamed. I feel embarrassed. I'm not sure if it is my ego that is stopping this, if it is spirit that is stopping this, that is maybe saying that I'm sharing too much information. But I really want to be raw and honest with you guys and vulnerable. Like I want to have the courage to be able to share with you my story, no matter how freaking cuckoo cuckoo it actually is. Because let me tell you, today's story is cuckoo cuckoo. Now, it's not a scary story. It's just really unusual. Okay. And again, I don't have the earthly words to describe everything that I saw. So I'm just going to try my best and pray that it lands. Okay. So I need to paint the picture like this. I don't even know exactly how old I was because I know that it took me months, if not years, to develop my gift to get to the point where I get to in the story. So I'm I may have been 5 and a half. All I know is that it's around the age of 5, 6, and 7. That's what I do know. It's around that age. And I feel like I'm 5 and a half, but I wouldn't have a freaking clue, to be completely honest with you. I'm not really paying attention to that. What I am paying attention to, and I'm probably going to show my age a little bit here, but you know what? I don't even mind. I was born in the 80s, and so I was raised in the 90s. I'm a 90s kid. And I at that time, the internet didn't even exist. When I was born, growing up, the internet didn't exist. It was birthed when in the 90s. So we didn't have digital TVs. We just had analog TVs. So sometimes what would happen with analog TVs, at least this happened with mine. I don't know about anybody else's, but when you turn off the TV, you could kind of hear like the static electrical charge, like kind of, I don't know, like you could kind of hear these little clicks in the TV. And it was just the electricity or something like that. I don't know. If you ran your hand about an inch from the TV screen, you could actually feel this electrical static charge, this static residue over the TV. And this blew my mind as a child that I could not touch something physically, but tangibly, I could feel something in the palm of my hand. I just thought that was so unusual. And so I used to love in the morning, sometimes at nighttime, but I know that this was my favorite thing to do for so long was I would, if I was at home and I wasn't sleeping at my auntie's house, I would get up really early and I would run to the TV. And before I turn on the TV, I would place my hand over the screen and just see if there was any static electrical charge residue. Sometimes there was, sometimes there wasn't. And if there wasn't, we'd put on rage. It was just what you did back then. So on the days that it did work, I remember feeling the sensation on my palm, and then like it was almost like a little opening in the middle of my forehead started to happen. And I could then feel this charge in the middle of my forehead. And if I focused on that, I'd have to do it slightly. I couldn't do it too intensely, otherwise I'd lose the tingling sensation that I feel within my body. And anyways, I really enjoyed a good challenge and I liked to set myself goals to achieve. And so I knew that if I could expand my awareness, that I could feel it an inch in diameter. I wonder what could happen if I expanded this feeling right across my forehead. Because all I knew was that I loved this feeling. I would almost also like get into like this meditative zone. And the house was always so calm and peaceful because no one was there. And so I could just really zone out. Anyways, I eventually got to the point where I could feel the sensation coming across my head and I just like almost like bliss the frick out. as a little kid. And one day, I don't know how else to describe this other than I want you to visualize this little small circle that appears in the air. And inside of that circle, I want you to imagine that there's like storm clouds rolling in that take up the whole circle. Now, how big your circle is, my one was probably, I don't know, 6 inches in diameter. So not huge, but not small either. And inside of this circle, there was like this blue. Honestly, the only way that I could describe it is if you were to watch a video of storm clouds rolling in and you put it on like hyper speed, and inside of those storm clouds was like the lightning that was happening inside the storm cloud, but you couldn't hear any thunder. You couldn't see any light bolts shooting out from the clouds. Anyways, uh, so this cloud thing's rolling in and it's blue. It's bright blue. It's blue like the ocean, but more clearer and more like intense. Like not blue like the sky, like blue like the ocean. Like think like tropical island with like the different shades of clear glass water blues that you could see, some light, some dark, but never scary. I didn't never ever felt scared seeing what I was seeing. When I first saw it, I remember feeling really curious as to understand what it was exactly. I'd never seen anything like that. And as like even leaning in to get curious, this thing like shoots out from this cloud, like this and it felt like it was coming directly at me and it kind of jolted me back into consciousness. I remember lifting up my hand and feeling the shock in my body. And the minute that I would lose that state of mind or that state of connection, I'd instantly, like, nothing would happen after that. I'd have to wait until the moment was right where I could feel the static charge on the TV. So you can see why this took like months, if not years, to develop because I'd have to pick the right timing. It would just have to be the right timing. And I was scared. I remember being scared for a couple of weeks. But remember, I'm little. So what might have felt like a couple of weeks could have been a couple of days. I'm truly not sure. I just know that I eventually get to this point where I can kind of like find the gray area, the part in my meditative state where I understood that if I venture out just a little bit further, probably going to see the blue storm cloud. And I really wasn't sure if I was ready to see that yet. So I would almost like dance between this state of, do I let myself fully go out and have a look over the edge and see what's around the corner, or do I just play it safe in the kiddie pool over here? I was really mucking around for a couple of weeks with that. Now, eventually I popped my head out, and when it appeared, this vortex, that's the only way that I can describe it as an adult, a vortex came out of this portal. I didn't go to it, it came to me. It came out, and then it's like it connected to my forehead, but then expanded as wide as a football field. And I remember like feeling incredibly safe, protected, and I felt peaceful. I felt calm. I felt freedom, I guess you could say. I felt freedom. And I remember looking up in my vision, like the grass is green beneath me. It's literally like I'm on a football field, but I can see houses around. And if you imagine the perimeter of a football field, where I could see the perimeter of this vision, I want you to imagine that we are in the middle of a blue, incredible blue tornado. And I know that we have this association with tornadoes being really scary, but there's just no other way that I can describe what this is other than tornado. It might be the only universal way that I can actually describe what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing. It felt calm. It felt like I was in the middle of the tornado. What do they call it? In the eye of the storm. It's calm. It's peaceful. The chaos. I want to say the energy around me is moving really quickly, but I feel calm, and I actually get this feeling about that energy. I feel protected. I feel safe. I feel like I don't have to worry about anything. For some reason, I I know that that energy that is surrounding me is, I don't want to say that it's my friend, but I do want to say it feels familiar. Like I know this energy and this energy is trying to work with me. And the only way that I can describe it to help you guys maybe understand even deeper is I feel like we've all seen the movie Moana. And look, even the references that I give you, it's probably because Moana is like a made up thing. It sucks because I don't want you to feel like this is made up, but I totally get it. I just totally get it. I'm hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth too, babe. So there's a scene in the movie where Moana goes towards the ocean and she sees the shell and she goes to try pick up the shell, and it's like the ocean moves and it moves without the grandmother seeing that the ocean has moved. And the ocean kind of plays with her a little bit. And before she picks up the shell, I feel like she's tested. It's been ages since I've seen the movie, but the vision that I have is like her heart is tested. Like, does she have a good heart? It's like the ocean is looking for a certain character, a certain person before it presents the heart of Tafiti. During the movie, the water is almost like her guardian. It's trying to communicate with her, trying to help her. It has its own personality. And oh, yes. And even in the movie where you get the manta rays, like the manta ray scene, when I'm talking about blue like the ocean, but then illuminescent, like that is the blue, like the blue. Or if you've seen the movie Avatar, like that's the blue, like this, it's like this illuminescence. I can't describe it to you other than maybe like that. Like it's just, it does feel out of this world. Like it feels out of worldly. It's an out of worldly experience. And that's why I think I'm finding it hard to describe it in English words, what I experienced, because I know that what I experienced was otherworldly. Anyways, so this is my relationship with spirit. This is what I feel like, I have always had this playful relationship with spirit. It eventually got to the point where I didn't have to put my hand over the TV screen in order for me to get myself into that state where I could then communicate and expand. And honestly, honest to God, it felt like play. It felt like when I would go into that state, I would be able to play with my friend. I'd be able to play in this field of energy where magic happened. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. So there's three times that I can remember distinctly, three distinct experiences with this portal that I remember. The first one was the field and looking up and seeing the blue sky. The next one I could still feel the grass beneath my feet, but I looked up and it wasn't Earth. It was, don't get me wrong, like I didn't see any alien galactic beings or anything like that. I just know, like I was shown landscapes, but I know that those landscapes were not of this universe or maybe of this solar system. That much 100% I do know because I've never seen anything like it. And I don't even know, honestly, how to describe it. And I feel like I'd be wasting your time if I tried to sit here describing what I could see. There was a third time, and it was the same situation. It was out of worldly and yeah, kind of really cool. But I feel like this was Spirit's way of showing me. I don't know if it's what it was capable of or what I was capable of. All I know is that honestly, I had fun with it. That's all I do know. I just remember loving this. Like it would be like sometimes the best part of like my week, my day, my month. Like I loved this so much. I loved getting into this state. I loved going and venturing off, and I loved playing with my little friend. And that's honestly how I feel like it was. So I eventually got to the point where I didn't need the TV and I could do this on my own. And I would see the blue portal open up. And when the blue portal opened up, then instead of me going into it, it was like interacting with me. So then I would be like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you make this appear? And there would be like these things like that would appear out of thin air. They were all blue. And I used to love it. I used to have a lot of fun with it. And one of the things that was really prevalent that I still to this day, like I'd love to get back to this state. One day when my career is not as crazy and I am able to get a bit more silent with myself, I am definitely going to challenge myself to get back to this state. But I used to ask for a rope. I was really obsessed with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had a lot of memories of me being in the army, of me being a commander, of me being a warrior, a fighter. And I remember asking for a rope, and a rope would appear out of the portal. And I would challenge myself to lie really stiff and reach out to this rope and pull myself up from the ground, only using my my arms, only using my arms. The only way that this would work is when I was in that meditative state. If I did anything or if my awareness went anywhere else, that I'd have an immediate disconnection. Now, there's only one memory that I vividly have where I go from stiff as a board on the floor and fully standing up. However, there's flaws to that memory. There's a few memories that I have where I'm about an inch from the ground, stiff as a board, pulling myself up. I'm about an inch from the ground. I didn't really have strong muscles. And it's not like I moved my head an inch from the ground, like my shoulders were up an inch from the ground. I feel like, well, Spirit said to me, I got to about 4 inches off the ground, and I'd have to, like, I knew that I had to be extremely disciplined with my concentration and making sure that I had a solid connection. When I broke that connection, everything would disappear and I'd fall to the ground and I'd whack my head. The only time that I remember, and it's not even a full memory. I remember lying down as stiff as a board. The rope appears. I start to pull myself up. I know that I'm about 3 to 4 inches off the ground, and I can't remember anything after that. I just almost like am back into conscious state when I'm standing up. That's it. That's the only memory that I have. But that's what I did. And I eventually got to that point. Now, when I got to that point, I don't know why, but I don't remember ever even having an urge to play with the energy again. I have no idea why. I don't know if that was all I was there to learn. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I have no memory of it. That's just what happened. So let's fast forward a little bit. Around the age of 10, we end up moving from our hometown, Karratha in Western Australia, to Melbourne, Victoria. And during that transition, before we actually moved, like I remember feeling really down and out about school. I did not have friends. I was kind of a bit of a social floater, a social butterfly, didn't really fit in anywhere. And yet I know that I could sit with anybody and they would gladly let me sit there, but I felt really awkward. I'd put on a lot of weight. People were like commenting on how much weight I put on. I was really not in a good space at all. Sometimes I'd go hang out with my older sister because I didn't have anywhere else to go and I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. So we ended up making the move. I go into this primary school feeling like I'm going to have a fresh start. Like, I really want to make friends. Like, I didn't care about my grades. I just wanted to make friends. I didn't want to be a freaking loner. When this whole move, the new school was happening, I mean, the house that we moved into was beautiful. It was big. It was literally like a big mansion. And it was freshly built. It was a new estate. We didn't have a driveway at that stage. It was still dirt. They literally had just, I think, finished building the building. We hadn't had any, like, the floors weren't tiled, the carpets weren't laid, like there were still things that needed to happen. We're meeting our neighbors for the first time. He's so lovely. He pops in, we get to know him. He introduces himself, blah blah blah. He's got kids that he shares custody with. He said the next time that they're here, I'll bring them over so you guys can meet each other and maybe make a friendship, blah blah blah. So all of this is happening. I as I've said in previous episodes, I was raised in a strict household. It was, if one of the parents went to sleep, you knew you just had to be quiet. Like, you couldn't make a sound. You had to be quiet or you'd get in trouble. Mum goes to bed. I head up to go to the bathroom to go for a shower. My sisters are somewhere in the house. Um, as I do that, The house is so empty. I don't think that all of our furniture had come by this stage for some reason. I could be wrong with that though. All I know is that the rooms echo. Like if you shut the door, if you like weren't conscious about how you're closing the door, it'd slam and then you'd hear it through the house. And so we were very careful not to make lots of noise. I'm in the shower, and as I'm in the shower, I hear the radio play. As the radio is playing, I pop my head out and say, "Hey, mum's asleep," or "Mum's in bed, turn it off." Music goes off. I'm doing my thing in the shower. Not even 5 minutes later, the radio goes back on. And I say, "Hey, mum's in bed." Yeah, I said, "Hey, mum's in bed, turn it off." So that they turn it off. And it happens a third time. And they know better and they're not doing better. "Turn it off," I yell out. And it turns off. And I was really annoyed. So I thought, if this happens again, I am going to get in there and I'm going to yell at them myself. As you could imagine, the music turns on. Right. Well, this time, showers off, towels wrapped around me. I'm before I've even opened up the door handle, the music's turned off. I don't care. I'm gonna have my bit and say what I have to say. I rip open the bathroom door. I head into the rumpus room where the music was playing. I open up the doors to this black, dark, empty room. I thought, well, they must have walked out of here. They must have walked out of here. So I've gone into my sister's room and the rooms are dark and empty. Okay, well, maybe they've just gone downstairs and I've just missed them. So I go into my room and I start drying off. And I don't know if it was just because I was protective by nature. I don't know why I had these thoughts, but being that it was a new house, I for some reason thought, well, what if we had a rubber in the house? And I don't even know why I thought this, but then I started to think, we might have somebody in the house. And I know that upstairs there's a metal baseball bat. It was quickly got changed, and I thought, okay, I've got a little window here where I can go get the baseball bat and I can walk around the upstairs and just check to see if anybody's there. So I race to the rumpus room. I go through all the rooms, no one's there. Go have a look in the guest room, no one's there. So I put the baseball back down. I go back downstairs and I see my sisters there at the kitchen dining table doing their homework. And I thought, oh, yeah, here we go. And I said, "Who is upstairs playing music?" And they said, "No, no one. We've been here." And I said, "No, someone was upstairs playing music and mum's in bed. Who was that?" And I'm the middle child. So the older child and the younger child, they're close. I thought that they were covering for one another. And then I got even more annoyed. And they go, "No, no one's here. No, someone is here because I heard the radio." I go back upstairs and I checked the rooms again and nothing's happened. I thought I remember feeling like it was really weird, but I trusted my gut instinct. And as I walked down the stairs, kind of confused, I see this little girl. And she's Caucasian, red, raging red hair, curls, long. Um, and she's skipping in this white dress down the hallway. And I was like, "Oh, the neighbors here, like that's who I'm seeing, like, or that's who I've been hearing. Like it's just the neighbors. They must have been outside, dad might have been showing them whatever. I don't know." But I walked down and I said to my sisters, "Oh, where's the little girl?" And they're like, both look up at me annoyed at this stage because they have no idea what crack I am smoking. And they look at me and they're like, "What little girl?" And I said, "The little girl that was skipping down the hallway. Like, there's no way that you did not see a little girl." And they were like, "No one is here." And the way in which they said it, that no one was here and we've been here the whole time doing our homework, I just felt this ring of they're telling me the truth. But I know what I heard and I know what I experienced and I know what I saw for absolute certainty. Like, I absolutely know what I saw. And I don't know what came over me, but out of nowhere, I just went, and in my mind, I thought, I've seen a ghost. And that was it. I sprint to my mum's room. I feel like I jump on her bed because for some reason, I don't know, as children, when we used to get freaked out, we didn't like to touch the floor for whatever reason. So we'd put our feet on the couch if we were watching a scary movie. We'd put our feet underneath the covers to make sure nothing was going to get our feet. And in this situation, I felt like I didn't want to touch the floor. So I jumped on my mum's bed. And it's just mum there. I don't know where my dad is, but it's just mum's there. And I said, Mum, I think I've seen a ghost. And she kind of looks at me and she's a little bit startled and she goes, Why? What do you mean? So I tell her the whole situation. I tell her the whole story. And I'm really freaked out at this stage. And you know what my mum does? I'll never forget this. I get to the end of me sharing with her what had happened, all the little scenarios. And my mum burst out laughing, cacked herself laughing at me. I was so shocked. It took me out of the state of fear. And she goes, Oh, yeah. She goes, Yeah. Can you, do you know her name? And I was like, No. Like my mom was so blasé about it. And I said, No. Still kind of freaked out and then even more confused. Why is my mom laughing? And then she goes, Oh, that's Amy. Yeah, she's been here for a while. And I was just stunned. And I really didn't know how to take it. Tune into next week's episode to find out what happened next.